I love working with artists, you know. I figure anybody that can handle listening to me ponticate for 5 minutes is definitely an artist. That's true. Adobe has this wonderful app. It's called Adobe Capture. Let me get myself situated here. So my keyboard shortcuts are working. Oh, they should anyway. I got a Zoom issue here. Just bear with me. I have to work around it. You can see I've got text here. This is a heading. This is a subhead. Subhead 2. I've got body text, another subhead there. If I select the text frame, not the type, the text frame, can I capture these? Yes. And they will go into a Creative Cloud libraries. Well, how do you get them? You right click and it's called Extract from Image. I believe that's under the object menu also. Let me make sure. That's where it should be. I'm so lazy, I right click everything. There it is, Extract from Image, same thing. And here I want to extract type. So it's the text frame. You don't select text, you get the text frame. And then you can extract it. Let me get that little recording out of there. Reminder for me. So I want to extract from the image what? I want to extract type. Now, if the digital gods are willing, this big dialog box is about to pop up. You can see it over on the right after it gets going. You can do it. You can do it, Adobe Systems. There it is. It's finally appearing. Look at that. Patience, Karl, patience. And it says, place this selection around a line of text. So if I come up here and just get this sized up through part of the text, you click Find Similar Fonts. And the first thing that comes up is the font that I have. See, it's selected. I can download more than one, and it saves to Creative Cloud libraries. But down here is where I tell it what I want. And what I want is the paragraph style. So that will add, after I click Save to Libraries, that will add it to my Creative Cloud library. Now, I just created this, so I made a new one here. I don't have to sync this up to the cloud. I'm using this for myself on my computer right now. Isn't that beautiful? So then you could keep going through the document. You could come over a little bit of subhead 1 and tell it to close this. Well, I have to right click it, I guess, again. A little aggravating. This is from the Capture app. They put it inside of InDesign. So I could come through and capture these. Of course, I could select this text in a document and do the same thing in the library with the little plus key down at the bottom. But it's kind of nice, you know, find similar fonts. And if I find other things I like, I can add them all in. Look at this, you can even edit. Wow. Boy, look at that. That's a reason to use it right there, huh? Letting, tracking. Then I could save these as paragraph styles to my Creative Cloud library.
Probably. Jay's. Where is it? It's something Harrington, but he's just looked like the interview he did about Patrick. Really feeling it. And then I try to find.
There we go. but it gets better, maybe. Here's an image or a graphic in InDesign. So if I select it and right click, I can extract the colors right out of an image or a graphic, color themes. It's not like what you could do in it and recolor inside of our friend the Illustrator, but it does give you some colors here, and there's little ways of maybe you want bright, dark, or maybe just none to get just the colors, that it picks up automatically. You can see how it's changing the whole color palette up here. I think I'll go for colorful. Then you could take these dots and move them around and change the colors. And you get a preview up there as you move them around, which is nice with this sky because I could get that to a real cyan. This, who knows what's going on there. I might decide I want to pull up something aqua here. I believe you can double click on these, or maybe here. I bet it's this guy. Oh, this just copies them over to your swatches. So any colors that you want, you can just copy them right over. So what does that mean? Well, it means I could keep moving this thing around and keep selecting colors and adding them into basically my swatches. Or to my Creative Cloud library. So under color, where they hide the swatches, notice that. Color gradient swatches is all now hidden under color. Nope, I have to put them into my library. And even though it added them in, I didn't add them. So I would have to click Add to Creative Cloud Libraries. This is interesting. This is vector-based, or it could be a photograph. Joy, good question. Let's head back up here and give that another try. Extract from image color themes. That's hexadecimal code right there. Okay, that's copied, I get it. You have to copy the ones you want. I believe you can click and shift click. Nope. Maybe Command Control. Nope. Then I could save them. That's hexadecimal code. But once you get them in Creative Cloud Libraries, then you could add these to your swatches panel. You think it would? Yeah, if I double click it. Individual colors. These are RGB, most likely because of my transparency blending space. Take a look at that. Well, it's document CMYK, even though the colors are defined in RGB, which you could redo once they're swatches. That's the way they're represented. So if you ever need to get a document into RGB, it's the, I know it's strange, it's under the edit menu and it's the document RGB. So now they're the colors, no matter what they're defined as, are represented as RGB. Pretty wild, isn't it? Well, that should be confusing. But the numbers that came up there were hexadecimal code. If you double click one of these swatches, you could see down below the hexadecimal code. And that's good for websites. They use that to define color inside of you know, HTML5 or just HTML. If you looked in the code for the background of the color, it would have this most likely pound sign with the hexadecimal code, for what that's worth. I don't understand it. I've looked at it and I just said, look, I can see what the color is. It's just if I want that color, I select the code and give it to somebody who wants to put it on a website, or if I'm working in like Dreamweaver or something. This is interesting. If I extract from an image, I can turn it into vector shapes. Oh, Joy, I've never heard that. That's brilliant. Everybody can look at that when doing spot colors. Yeah. If you took a look at Illustrator, you could do vector tracing, threshold things like black and white logo, and this is a cut down version of that. So the detail is threshold. It's either white or black. And I'm not really good at this, but you could take this eraser and start to come in and erase out things that you don't want. And then when you put this into your little library and drag it out, it'll become a vector threshold object. Actually, I'm not even zoomed in. It's doing pretty good job. I just have to use a slider. I don't think bracket keys work like Photoshop. It's not, you know, the most elegant. This is resizable though. I'd suggest taking it into Illustrator and having a go at it, which would be a lot easier to clean up than this. But it does get you a basic threshold. There's going to be a lot of detail out here, by the way. Illustrator could take care of that. And then when I save it to my Creative Cloud, or I could invert it, smooth on save, that should smooth it up. And then I can save it to my libraries and then use it in InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop, you know. You can see it's not bad. In fact, looks pretty good, huh? So you could do that with photograph, you know. This could be vector traced. Of course, if you get involved in this, you really want to use Illustrator for this. Illustrator has a lot of great ways to work with vector tracing with what they call threshold nodes. Great when you need some type of art for something that just doesn't have what you need. Look, I say I could invert it. Colon, I see that you're colon. I see that you've logged on here. We're taking a look at extract shapes out of InDesign.
And that right ain't ice cream. Okay.
Here's our smooth.
She was getting married yesterday, and her ex-husband decided to crash the wedding. Now, from what I know, I believe her ex.
Here we go. So see, it's taking time. Most likely going to have to be on the internet for this to work also. Well, that's doing its little conversion over there. What you could do in Illustrator is bring in a photograph and copy it, Command or Control C, and then use one of the thresholds and tell it at the bottom to delete white. Black gets left and you can colorize that. Then what you do is paste the photo in place, Command or Control F, vector trace that, and then drop out the white. You'll see a little box down there and drag the threshold, and what's left is black. You colorize when you're done. Then you paste the next one in front, Command or Control F, take it, say, you know, delete white, and then get the black. You'll see all the colors. And usually you'll probably want to start from 255. It'll just be a solid color black. And then just work your way down from 255, and you could create posters you wouldn't believe, just with that paste in front and a threshold command. I wish they had that here, but you know, you can do it in Illustrator. So if you like this, what I'm saying is you might want to take a look at what can be done with Illustrator with vector tracing. Most people look at the photographic part of it, but if you look at the thresholds, then those are a whole other animal. So here it is. This is our captured shape for whatever use that is. And when I zoom in, it's not bad, is it? Art. You never know. In a pinch, you might need something. I could see where this could be used for certain individuals that are doing books, you know, want something that just looks like some handheld drawings, you know. Like I live in a place called Barnstable, Massachusetts. It's near a harbor. I could go down there with my cell phone and just take a couple photographs like this and of the landmarks down there and just vector trace them and then put the type in and have an interesting, maybe looking book. You know, why not? You got to have fun. What I like about this stuff is people can have the life they want to have. They don't have to listen to people telling them who and what they need to be. They shouldn't be, nobody should be telling anybody how to do that. But they can change their life around. And with this software, you can compete against anybody in the world. All you have to do is be brave and go for it. Always trust your judgment. I always doubt that. Working with clients online, I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous. And they'll say, no, Karl. And I'll go, you're right. My mind is trying to tell me something and I'm not listening to it. This is auto select subject. This, for a lot of workflows, is just going to change their whole concept of working. With the pages here, I'm on the first page, and this is an object that has text wrap applied to it. It's actually underneath there. So I'm going to pull up the window menu because text wrap gets its own fantastic option here. And I'm going to use the layers panel so that I can actually select this object. Layers, just like Photoshop, are fantastic. This is like Illustrator. The nice thing about it, and it can be the bane of your existence also, is that they're document wide, but they just show you what's on basically a page. And when you have things with stacking orders that are nasty like this, because the type goes on top, the text wrap underneath, this little selection area here, I can select, see, this person. And you see how I set this up was I went to text wrap and I went to select subject. You could turn this off. So this is how it starts. I selected the object by using the layers panel. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to move the type frame all over. I'm not going to try to memorize all these shortcuts. I'm going to let the layers panel do what it does. The right side selects it, and I can see it's at the bottom. Text wrap, the third button, wraps around the shape. Then you come down to select subject. Look at that, perfect. Then this is a keep away value. Just click in it and use up and down arrow keys. You can push that type around. If the type starts to get in little crevices, instead of both left and right, go to largest area. Look at that. That's an interesting design, isn't it? And I did all these the same way. Here, this is just pushing it to the largest area, and it figured out it needed to go around there. This did the same thing over here. though I could tell it to go to the left or right. See, I pushed it to the left side. Hopefully that makes sense. I got these images at pexels.com, PEXELS.com. They're royalty-free for commercial or private use. That one's wrapped around the left. This one's really nasty. Wait till you see this one. And it actually did a text wrap. You know, this text wrap detection is trying to figure out where edges are. And when you have something like this that never went through Photoshop, that's just like really soft and mushed, you know, a lot of edge detection things can't, you know, handle that. But this can, because it's select subject, both left and right sides. Though I could push it to the left. You try. If I select the photograph, there we go. Largest area. And see how it deals with. This path can be edited if you wanted to. There's also other things about text wrap. You can push things above, below, depending on what you've got. Push them around a bounding box, so on and so forth. But this is great. So all of these are just text wrapped around. This one is really interesting. I grabbed it because it wasn't a traditional kind of an image. And I thought, you know, this could work really well with white text. I could make it bigger, but you notice what it's detected. It's really interesting. So this model is really posed well. This is obviously a professional model that the camera extremely loves. I don't blame. I mean, you know, and look how the select subject largest area picked that up. That is amazing. See, normally you'll get both left and right sides. In this case, because it's so good with, it actually selects the main content. So what that tells me is this is coming from Photoshop. This is that Photoshop select subject. I know that for a fact. So once again, Photoshop rears its head. Here you can see this guy, he's great. It just picks him up and wraps around. So you could work any way you like with some of these. But I could see in a lot of magazine designs, things like that, where people had to lose their mind with the pen tool. Those days are over. It detected this, and I put largest area. See both of left and right sides? Largest area with something like this is really interesting design. So it comes down here, continues. And remember the keep away value. Just click and use up and down arrow keys. Don't be a hero. I'll click away. I'm going to hit the W key to get a preview up with no bounding boxes. See, you can still work this way. Oh, he's down here where I'd use the layers panel. So I can still work in this mode. And the text reflows. Very nice. And the same thing here. I found these on Pexels, and I figure if this thing's going to work, it better work with images like this. So it's select subject, largest area, and a keep away value of 4 points, or whatever you need. Oh, yes, George. It's Pexels, P-E-X-E-L-S. Let me check my spelling here, just bear with me. I'm sitting like 8 feet back from my keyboard. You have to watch me like a hawk. And I'm left-handed, look out. And I don't have depth perception. Yeah, and my name's Karl with a K. And I play bass professionally. I'm left-handed, but I play right-handed. So I'm wired up a little different, I guess. You could check out the digital management rights. It'll tell you right in there. They don't want any passwords. They don't want your email. They do not harass you because they don't take it. It's royalty-free for commercial private use. You don't ever have to give attributions to the photographer or the videographer because they have ultra 4K high definition video also. But you know why they do it? Because after you get some of their footage, when you need stock stuff, they got big sales. Guess who you're going to go to? That's the quality. But for somebody like me who just doesn't have the access to the kind of money that stock services, I'll go to pexels.com because I'm cheap. Well, not cheap, but my rental software at Adobe, you don't want to know. Try the Tech Suite, Creative Suite. Yeah, Captivate. No, that's as much as Creative Cloud. So I got Creative Cloud, Captivate, then I got the Tech Suite. I'm going to have to get Substance. I think we're looking at $5 to $8 grand a year. I'm going to be bankrupt soon at this rate. Huh. It's crazy, isn't it? That's an understatement. But I love this stuff. I think I'm addicted to it. This one I really want to show you. This is called Just Layout. Let's take a look at what we've got here. Hit a tab key. I'm going to do shift page down and go page at a time. You can see what this looks like. And it's probably not laid out in one text flow. What if somebody wanted tabloid? Well, if I go to the file menu, it's called adjust layout right there, right under document setup. That's all you have to select. Here, I've got the preset for a tabloid. 11 by 17, I want to auto adjust the margins. And I want to adjust the font size, usually always. And here you can even have limits for the font size, but watch what happens when I click OK. Now that's computing. You won't have much cleanup. Let's put it that way. That is computing. I was writing a book on FrameMaker. I can't get to it to complete it. They really need a book on it. And I know how to use it, especially XML. And over the weekend, I put together, I don't know, I roughed in, it's probably about, it's got to be edited down, but it's like about 480 pages. I use voice dictation in that. And I changed the page size in InDesign 16 times across the book file flawlessly. So I know this works and it can save you a ton of time. Just use adjust layout. And I've got some other options here. Here's a book from Adobe Systems. I think it's an old user guide. Let's say I made a copy of this and I wanted it to go landscape, left to right. Oh, I could do that here very easily. I just go to adjust layout and tell it to auto adjust the margins. That's important. And of course, I want to adjust the font size. That's it. And here's where I start to take it from portrait to landscape right there. Then all I have to do is click OK and look how well that works. Now, I might have some work to do, but I mean, look at that. That's just unbelievable that something like this exists. Actually, Aldous PageMaker had this, but nobody ever looked at it. Then Adobe started getting the digital publishing suite, which of course they killed off in the middle of the night after everybody spent all that money. And I never used it. They were horrified too, but I said, hey, adjust layout works. You hit it, but I found it. Nice guy, huh? This one is a community script. If you work with the styles and you get things that, it's called remove overrides. I know it's right here in front of me. Adjust, column rules. We know it, there it is. You're gonna love this. These are called community scripts. And let's say somebody came in here and they made a royal mess of manual overrides. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just in a lot of workflows, you're working with styles. So you're going to get all these overrides. Here, they've changed the color of type. They probably changed the font. You know, you could have table styles. You could have object styles. And people just do overrides. You know, they're not bad. They just don't know. So is there a way to clear out all of these overrides? Yes, but buried. It's under the window menu, and it's called a utility, and it's called scripts. They're called community scripts. They haven't put any more in. It doesn't really matter. This is the one that I want. Clear style overrides. Mac or a PC, all you do is double click it. This beautiful box comes up, really. Clear text style overrides, character, paragraph. And you can even select what paragraph you want to do it to. Wow. If you have table styles, you can do that, or object styles. I'm just going to clear out all the text overrides with one click. Look at that. They're all gone. No search and, as they say, destroy missions. No, we have enough stuff to do without clearing overrides. Isn't that nice? Look at that. Onions isn't weird colors, and the fonts have all come back. All of these character styles have all been reset. And I can seriously go to my deadline in a book file with 500 pages, because you can run these across book files. Yeah. And not have to worry that something insane happens on a big print run, or worse, a corporate report. That's the worst thing in the world. That's all I can tell you, is if you get your company to print 1,500 pieces of a corporate report, count just like the day and the sun comes up. If you don't use styles on the main investor page, something weird's going to go on. And then you've got these people walking down the hallway, just turning as you walk by and cringe and go, Karl, what was that on page 89? That was brilliant. That was just genius. I'm glad that we printed 1,500 pieces of that thing. And you're like, oh, you feel so small. That didn't happen to me. I know people it has. I was worse. I started publishing with no styles. You don't want to know. I got everything to work. Super find and change skills. And then one day I actually did what my wife told me to do, read the user guide. That was a unique idea. And I got the styles and master pages, which are now changed to be, they've changed the name of the masters to the, I got to pull this up because I have to remember. Come back in Bridge, but it's applied to the document, George. It works through the style. So wherever that style is in the document, that's what's going to get applied to it. I'm assuming that we could probably try to do some interesting things by hiding things, but I don't think that'll work either. It's just a script. You can get third-party plugins that do this, but they cost money, you know. And if you're working in those deadlines where you don't have that money and you got a lot of overrides, that's probably going to be your friend. This is one too that's interesting, column rules. They've never had these. It's where you have a text frame like this, and it's text frame options, right click, Command or Control B, and you could turn on the column rules. Yeah, then we should start to get them up there. I thought I had that selected. Oh, I'm in a preview mode. Yeah, that's the problem. I need to hit W. There we go. That shouldn't have anything to do with that. This is one text frame. I must be missing something. Column rules, previews on. Oh, I didn't click insert. Yeah, see, there they are. And you've even got things like the length. You can change the length, the start lengths, or others. Stroke weight, how thick, the color. You can even get crazy things, anything you can do with a stroke. Great for menus. Don't laugh. You can make a living doing menus. I've had some clients that have done that. They've been vaporized by their company, and they get these great skills. And I say, you know, you just start creating things. Get up in the morning, get some free templates, and start to create some things, especially, you know, these beautiful things that you'll create for restaurants. And, you know, when you're sitting there eating, just pull the thing up in a PDF or something on your phone and go, wow, look at your menu. Would the owner like something that looks like this? And they'll probably, believe me, they'll go, yeah. And then you look and go, what bill is due this week, you know? And then the next thing you know, everybody around that place wants your menu. Yeah. These skills can pay bills. Skills for bills, whatever. HSB color. Whether the color is basically defined swatch or not. The HSB mode, really, if you were on for Photoshop, I was looking at that constantly. Hue, saturation, brilliance. That's just an amazing color space, especially when you're making color. Here's a swatches panel, and you can see I've got a big red and a green. So if I apply the green here to, let's say, drag it on this swatch and double click this, because I want to edit globally, you could see it goes to CMYK. They hide this, by the way. You're going, well, I don't see it. No, that's because they hide it up here with a slider. Yes, HSB. So even though I'm working in CMYK, I could have somebody come in and say, I want that green darker. All I have to do is work with the brightness value. That keeps the exact hue, but changes globally. Then if they want to change the saturation, I've actually stopped a couple fist fights at Dow Jones over this stuff. People would come in and they become page designers for newspapers, magazines. And once I remember, this is my local paper, somebody just got out of school and they had one of the old geezers in the back, and they were just about getting into it. And I had, they called me out. The person was great, you know, they had talent. And they said, you need to set this guy straight. You know, I want my, he says they want this color darker, and I did it. I said, oh, you don't understand. They have a Pantone spot book with processed colors, and the hue is the color. They're so good, which I'm not. You're changing that actual hue. They don't want you to do that. So you got to get into something like a hue, saturation, brightness. If he wants it darker, just go to this. Okay, I'm working in a straight CMYK workflow. What do you do now? Just switch the color mode back to CMYK. Did you see that? Switch to HSB, and then switch back to CMYK or RGB. Works every time. Even if it's not a color that, say you're working with the color panel, you could do the same thing. And I think for a lot of people, this is going to solve a lot of issues that they've had. So let's say I want to work with this blue. See, it says CMYK. If I right click into ramp right down here, what do you see? HSB. So temporarily, I could make this darker. And, you know, if it wasn't, even if it wasn't a global color, I could make it lighter, and I could right click and switch right back to CMYK. Now remember, the color mode of the document is under the edit menu. It's called a transparency blending space. This is an RGB. So no matter what I define here, it's represented as RGB. If I was working in a straight CMYK workflow, I could just go to document CMYK. But in some of those, they want to switch all the defined swatches over to CMYK, which you can do easily in the swatches panel. But, you know, when you're designing, you might not want to change the color. Everything might be the same color. What do you mean by that? Well, let's say I did that. Let's say I use this, I selected all these, and I used the big red. Well, one way to get around this is I could use tints, but I don't want to define things. So if I come up here and get my color panel up, for this one, I could right click and go to my HSB and just make this one darker. Then I could select this one, right click, HSB. And make it more saturated and lighter. So basically they are still the same color, but I don't have to overload my user base with the insanity of all these different hues, because the visual system of a human being picks all this stuff up, whether you realize it or not. Your visual system is unbelievable. But you see, those are all the same color, but I'm not overloading them with color. These colors could mean something. My clients like Raytheon, they make all these incredible systems for the Navy. And I told them, you know, instead of overloading subheads with colors, we could use red. So if they see a subhead on a pump and it's a bright red, that means you better read this section because you might get your arm ripped off. Or if it was a light red, it meant warning. If it was a green dark, it's good to go. But if it got a lighter green, that meant something. And then the Navy could go out to sea like my brother and not have the disasters he used to have because they couldn't put together a user guide. You know, can you believe that? And the kind of money that they got paid. And I was so happy to get that gig just because of this. So I don't have to use tints. I could use HSB. And I could always switch between any color mode. But HSB, man, that's a color mode I use constantly in the Photoshop color picker. Look, it's right here with a double click. Are you kidding? Can you double click a swatch? Yeah, look at that. Photoshop color picker right there. The nice thing about this and the double click is here's your color ramp. Here's the saturation ramp that's bigger, and there's your brilliance. I think that's why they put it in. People just got tired of trying to figure out how to get those basic fundamentals of color to work. In fact, I know that's why they put it in. Probably some public outcry. I've got another one in here. Let's see where we're at. And I did want to cover this, but I think I put it up. This is it, Heinz. It was a how design thing that just went on. And I was up there for FMC for Dell. And they said, what option would you bring in for InDesign? And I said, creating text frames. That seems to be the bane of existence. If you've ever worked with Section 508, you would know what I mean. If you just throw text frames out onto a page, the order that they get read in a screen order is the order that you create them. So just think if you made a PDF out of this thing for Section 508 Disabilities Act, and if you're going to work with local, federal, state governments, that thing doesn't load into a screen reader. It makes no sense at all to somebody. So you got to try to figure out, either get the right text threading or work within one text flow. But there's different ways to do it. One is text frame options. So what you could do is use a text frame and right click it and go to text frame options. So once I get my text frame options up, inside of there, one, for pull quotes, vertical justification. So you could put the text in the center of a frame. That's not what we're looking at. This, number of columns. This would be the gutter. So, and these can be picked up with paragraph styles. Think of that. Well, what about something like this that doesn't cross those? Well, if we look at our properties panel, I think some of these exist, but they're probably buried. Let me make sure. It could be down under paragraph, but yep, no. Close, but no, they don't get a winner with this one. And that's why I use the control panel up under the window menu. Take a look up here. So this is basically, text frame options. You could use this. I could select that text frame and just use this. I mean, that's fast. But what if I wanted this paragraph to span? Double click to get into type editing mode, and this is span. See, it says none. Tell it to span all. And that could be part of a paragraph style. So you can work in one flow, just one and text frames, and just split them out and come in and just use text frame options if you like to work that way. The only thing you don't get is the span. So here you could make this a 3. For indexes and things, you can even balance the columns. You ever look at the back of a book with an index? It's unbelievable. They have like a bunch of pages, and you get to last page, and then you got this line of text that goes all the way to the bottom. And then you look up there at the next column, way up there, and they got like 2 or 3 lines of text. And you wonder, how come they didn't come in and balance the columns? So on that last page, what'll happen is all the text is equal. So as you keep editing the index, everything works. I must be missing something. I don't know why they can't do that. And these are people, that's what they do for a living. They should know that. But hey, I was thrown into production and I had to learn, once you get in production, I mean, seriously, do you have time for anything? You're trying to eat, That's text frame options. But then there's gridified text columns. These are all linked. So they're separate individual columns. How did I create those columns? It's called gridify. And this only works when you create columns. You can use it even with graphic frames. So what you do is drag out and hold down the mouse a little frame. If I tap the right arrow twice, you can see I get 2, 3 columns. All I have to do is drag that down and they perfectly space out. Click inside and fill with placeholder text. How about that? And then there's a gap tool up here underneath the 2 row. So if the gap tool finds that gap, then you can change the gaps. If you were to hold down Command or Control on a PC, you can change the size of the gap. If you drag, it's take from Peter, give to Paul. And if you hold down Alt or Option, you can actually move the columns, as long as you have gaps. Command or Control gives you those different sized ones. So you don't have to go in there and create these columns because you want different size and put up all of these crazy guides and all that. I mean, really? And then you got to thread them up. You could always click the end thread here and jump into another, thread it to any type of text frame. But that's called gridify. So if it works only when you create text frames, I can't get that, let's say, to do this. I've got an open area here. Let's say that I use this to create just 3 text columns here. Maybe I'll put 2 rows with the up arrow. Up and down arrow creates rows, and the text will all be threaded up. So if I come in and fill with placeholder text, if I take my selection tool, you would think I could load this up and use gridify. Doesn't work. So what do you do then, Mr. Smarty? Well, you create a text frame, a new one. So I want 2. All I need is a right arrow tap, put it out. Everything's already sized up. Hit the escape key and I get the selection tool. When you're in type editing mode, the escape key should get me my selection tool or force it. Here's a threading port. I can click the end here or click the beginning here. Come over this and we should get a link. It's trying to give me the link. Then if I double click in there to get into type editing mode or just force the issue and fill with placeholder text, you'll see that basic text threading actually works and would save you a ton of time. Especially if you're creating things on our pages now. This says master. That's kind of interesting. It's now called parent. So they haven't changed their code. So master pages are now called parent pages. So if you see that, it's just because they're changing their naming conventions. That's all. They still do what they do. Nothing else has changed. These would be images. It works with graphic frames the same way. And you could do this when you load up a text cursor and use place. Just here, I want to have, let's say, 6 images. So they're all set there. So if I go to File, Place, Command or Control D, and pick up 6 images, let's see. I could put SVG files in here, but I know they're in here somewhere. Extras or InDesign has some stuff. A classroom and a book. Now, here we go. Let's have fun with gardening. And we'll get the spider. You can use arrow keys with this, by the way, to left and right to navigate graphics. Nothing like a loaded text cursor. Gets me very excited. Now I have object styles made. I just got one of these prepared and saved it out under the object styles menu as a new style, and that should be in. So after I select these, if I go to my window menu and go to styles, I have my object styles up there. And here I have main, what do I call them? Main image thumbnails. Watch what happens. Look at that. Now, if I double click on this style, I can edit it. And what you'll see is I got the size and position You can now save those. So you get that exactly. If you had a text frame, you could even put in the paragraph styles, including next style. Wow, that's pretty good. And as I come down, this is just, frame fitting options. I've got this set up to fill the frame proportionally. What they don't have that you want to look at is in your properties panel. This too shall change. And if it doesn't, I'm going to be cranky. If I select all these images and take a look at frame fitting, the last one is content aware frame. Right out of content aware fill and subject select out of Photoshop. Watch this. Those could move around. And they do. So it figures out, say if I have a beetle that's like this, and let's say it's just filling like this, if I go the content aware fit, it basically gets the main content of the photo. Now, I wish they put that into a style, but I just figured that's something that we probably want to look at that wasn't looked at much, on updates. And there's also auto fit that can be part of the style. And that's where if you resize a corner handle of something, you don't have to hold down Control Shift, just the Shift key. That means that it sizes the content with the frame. And that works with the gap tool. Oh no, Karl, you're kidding. No, watch, right? That'll save you a ton of time. All based off of Gridify. And Gridify is when you drag out a graphics frame or a text frame and use left and right arrows to get columns and up and down arrows to get rows. Well, you could put together a lot. Oh, but there's just one other one I want you to look at. This can be put into a paragraph style, and it's an amazing concept. I'm going to revert this, and there's a keyboard shortcut that'll pull it up. Remember, you can always use, let's see, what do we have here? I think I set one up. Split columns. This is exactly what I want. You get one big text flow and you just throw the text through. And remember what I'm saying, set this up and you can save styles for it or use what's called quick apply. So if I click inside of a paragraph, because I've got the control panel up, there's a little button up here and it says, if I click on this, it pulls up span columns. Nope, I have to option double click or alt. That's too much work. I want to split. Hold down Command, Return, or Control Enter on a PC. It's this lightning bolt. It's called Quick Apply. It's unbelievable if you've never used it. I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to use Command Return. Remember, PC, Control Enter. Then you type in what you're looking for. I already did this earlier to make sure. I just typed span COL and it selected it. You can find even paragraph styles with this stuff. Yeah, and tag things, quick apply. So what I want here is not, I want to split the column. So now I'm going to split it into 3 columns. Let me zoom in there. I think I can zoom in somewhat. Yeah. And I can get the space before the split. I'll zoom out in a minute. I'll just click OK and undo. You know what? I don't need these panels up for this to work. Let's hit the Tab key. Let Karl be responsible for a change. Make sure that I'm not in a type frame though. Yeah. Tab key, type cursor, not a good idea. Here we go. So I'll just double click to get in type editing mode and I'll use quick apply. Let's say I'm on a PC, that'd be Control Enter. It already has span columns. It remembers what I've done. So I just hit return. Once I hit return, I can move this around. Notice single column is selected. I can use a down arrow and get right to split columns. Then I can hit the tab key and just use up and down arrows. So now I got 3 columns. Tab down, space before split. Tab, space after split. Inside gutter. Outside gutter. So then I can click in this paragraph. Command return on a Mac, enter. Down arrow twice. Tab key, 2's fine. Space before, looks good. Space after. Then I tab, outside gutter. Enter return. And you can just start to pump out. Now, the best part of this, if you save a paragraph style, it can pick all of this up. So you can use quick apply to get your splits. And believe me, you can do a lot of unbelievable formatting. Inline graphics are the same thing now. So if you put in an anchored frame, a paragraph style or an object style can pick up that anchored object, which they call here insert. So if I pull up this, all of these can get picked up. And you see I have an object style that would pick that up. Now my position here needs to be inline or above the frame. And then I can say, let's say we want 3 inches by, let's say the depth of 2 inches. And then I can get space above or below, but the alignment, I want the alignment of this frame to be centered aligned. And if I get my anchored frame options back up there, then I could change that so it's below the current line. So, like I said, you could save that as an object style. So I usually put these at the end of the last paragraph, you know, where I want it to go. Right click and insert that anchored object. Now let's see, position. Yeah, I think I can do custom with this. I have to remember because I have everything in styles. It's really embarrassing. Let's say we wanted this 3 by 2 inches. I don't want it above the line. That's what I did. That's right. I don't want it above. Inline should put it right there, I believe. Wish we had a preview on this thing. I'll take the text. Everything there looks right. Here's my anchor point. I probably want that centered. That could be part of it. That's why I use it. I think it's just this guy right here. Well, we're about to find out. Or maybe I should have put it above the line. Yeah, it's probably out in space somewhere. Have to put it above the line. I knew it was one or the other. Yeah, it would be above the line. Then it could be centered. That makes sense. Then we could get space before and after. And save that out as a style. And you could also get your frame fitting options. You could put a stroke on it. All that stuff gets picked up. And this is what? It's going to be 3 by 2. And then once that's a style, when you insert this in, which you can do with Control Enter or Command Return, and just go insert anchor and hit, you know, enter and select your style, then you're good to go. There we go. Quite a bit, isn't it? see. We looked at rules, auto select, the big stuff. What else did they have? Well, you can find text now and you can change it. That's fine change, but I want to look at variable fonts. If you've never used these before, they're quite incredible. And when we looked at Photoshop, I pasted in Illustrator text and I had variable fonts and they actually came over, which is amazing. Let me hit a tab here and clean up my mess. I believe it's this paragraph here. I'll double click, see bistro and bar, and it's a variable font. And this little widget comes up, and this one just has the weight. Other ones have a lot more. Where can you find them? That's the question. Let's say I double click this paragraph, triple click. Click in front of character, either in a character panel or the properties or even your control panel, and type the word VAR for variable. You think it would respond. Quite amazingly, it's fighting me. Well, if I go to the drop down, there's a variable concept right there. Notice on the side, Adobe Open Type, it has VAR. Here's a myriad variable concept. That's kind of interesting. You know, you use Myriad Pro, it's Open Type. So you would think that, you know, you'd have all these variations down here. You do. Look at all this. Wow. But look at this. Now you can start to design it with the weight and the width. So if I come back down here and get, here's a bold semi-extended, click on the little widget and I can work with the weight and the width. So you can design your own fonts and save misstyles. If I were you, I'd come down here where it says metrics and use optical kerning. Those letters will expand. If something's selected and you use Command plus or minus regular keypad on a Mac or Control plus or minus, it actually zooms around what's selected. And if you're starting out in InDesign, I tell you, you should work that way. You can even hold those keyboard shortcuts down, just Command plus, and it just zooms up. So then you can really see what optical kerning does to letters. Here's metrics. See how they move? An E fits under an R, different than an E next to an E. The metrics is what the font designer puts in. Optical looks at the actual shape. Look at that. And sets type like Gutenberg. Literally, not making this up. I know what this is. It's German code. Adobe paid a fortune for it. It sets type literally like Gutenberg. It looks at the shapes of the letters, the metrics, and if you have a big letter in a different font next to something, it basically will then, with metrics, figure that all in. So you always get optical, you get the perfect spacing between letters. Watch what happens with metric. See how that E starts popping out there, but not with optical. So I know that's not a new feature, but it's what makes InDesign InDesign, especially if you're working with baseline shift and other things. That can change your life. So thank you for logging on. I hope this has been helpful and gives you some ideas. And have a great weekend.